Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is June 23rd, and today's episode is actually going to cover a whole lot of things that have happened over the last few weeks. So this is going to be kind of like a catch-up episode. I actually recorded this episode last week, but then my file got corrupted, so I wasn't able to publish it. So it's even bigger than that, and then hopefully from tomorrow we'll go back to our regular episodes. But yeah, today you get a mega episode. So let's jump right in and let's see what's going on.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so as always, we're going to start with Rocket Pool news, and today's Rocket Pool news is actually really interesting because we have a new IMC nomination thread. So every year, basically between 10 and 14 months, I think, the management committees for Rocket Pool, the grants and incentives committees, they hire a new committee and they elect a new committee, I should say, and that committee then, works on the charter for the committees and gets the job done. Basically, for the grants committee, it's to give out grants and awards for work done for Rocket Pool or work people want to do for Rocket Pool. And then for the incentives management committee, the idea is to provide liquidity. So our ETH basically is liquid on the secondary market, and that's what the IMC does, and does that job very, very well. So yeah, this is it's been a year and a bit, as Val says, and now it's time to hire a new IMC. And the idea is that you'll find out what the IMC does, who is the members and what they've been doing, and then there's nominations as well. So this thread will be live for 5 days at least. It looks like it's going to be live for a little bit longer. So if you haven't nominated yourself, or if no one has nominated you yet, please make sure that you go and do that ASAP. Because we need more people to run so we can elect a good board, but a good committee. So here, anyone can nominate anyone, including themselves. Anyone can remove themselves. There'll be thread closed on the 23rd. I hope that we can extend that by a day or two, or a few days. And it says if you're nominated and don't remove yourself from consideration, you got to release the nominee information sharing section of RPIP 10, and then vacancies that occur get filled by going down the list from previous selections. And this means that more nominations are definitely good, including well past can field a full committee. So the first person to nominate themselves was Destroyer, who is currently also a GMC member. So that's pretty cool. Val went and nominated the IMC members who have not explicitly said that they don't want to be nominated. So that included Val himself, Samus, Dookie, Dr. Worm, myself, Pateris, and Hululo. Schifrin gave 1+ to Destroyer, and Dookie nominated themselves just to show their love for Rocket Pool, and Pateris said that they don't want to be considered in the future. So right now we don't have enough people to form a full committee, which of course is not good. So if you are watching this and if you haven't nominated yourself, just go and nominate yourselves. Hopefully this will be extended by a couple of days. Just let a few more people nominate themselves, and we can then go to getting nominee statements and getting voting on that. So yeah, that would be really exciting. Okay, we had a new smart node version released, and this was 1.16.0, and it says that there's important change for reward submissions, but that's ODAO should update this version before the next reward submission to avoid a consensus issue, and they are it's a recommended update for them. So there are a lot of client updates, so I'm not going to go through all the different client updates of the recent weeks, but you've got new Nimbus versions, Bisu, Prism, Lodestar, and Reth. And then on the smart node, there have been a bunch of changes about things that have been removed, things that have been added, and things that have been changed there. So there's a new version of Grafana. Make sure to run, there's some little updates there as well. And one thing that Schifrin introduced recently is having the POAP for the upgrades again. So this is for 1.16.0, and Schifrin, basically a whole lot of people put on their screenshot of their upgrade, and they would then get POAPs for that, which of course is really exciting. Okay, next we had this update from Shifrin here as well about RP Squared, a visual design system for Rocket Pool content. And Shifrin started this thread today under trading, and he says this project was this design system was developed by Token Motion, so that's Leti, as part of the ongoing grant supported by Grants Management Committee. The goal of the grant is to help expand Rocket Pool's visual and educational presence by creating accessible, shareable media for the community. This initiative is community-driven and independent from Rocket Pool core team. So this is what is Rocket Pool Squared. This is RP Squared. It's not Rocket Pool Squared, RP Squared. It's a design system built to streamline the creation of educational and engaging visual content, primarily square format GIF animations and static PNGs. It standardizes elements like layout, typography, spacing, and visuals so that creators can focus more on the message and less on the formatting. And why does it matter? When content is consistent and visually appealing, it's easier to understand and share. RP Square enables contributors to quickly turn well-written, concise copy into polished explainers and infographics that can live on Twitter, Farcaster, the Rocket Pool Forum, etc. So how do we contribute? Writers, researchers share a few clear sentences on the topic. We can turn that into a visual explainer. Community members suggest topics or feedback that could become great visual content. And what kind of content fits? Like protocol explainers, tokenomics breakdowns, governance proposals, growth metrics, security education, anything that supports understanding and engagement with Rocket Pool. So this is not official Rocket Pool branding. This is not an update for the branding. This is just an education initiative created by Token Motion with support from the GMC. And then you can jump in with copy suggestions here. But yeah, this is design work. So if you need to present visuals on Twitter or elsewhere, drop a note in this thread and Sleety can whip something up for you. So this is really, really cool stuff and very, very exciting. So great job for everyone involved with that. Okay, POTUS is a core dev at Ethereum and talking about ePBS and how all that is going to work and some of the positives about it, some negatives about it, but wanting to talk to protocols involved with building on ePBS and the kind of stuff that they'll be doing. So what POTUS is doing here is then a couple of days ago set up a breakout room where people can talk about how ePBS is going to impact their protocols. And one of the people that was tagged in this was Rocket Pool, along with Lido and a whole bunch of other people involved in the ETH staking space, including client teams, etc. And yeah, this was really cool by POTUS to try to get those ideas, and I hope someone from the Rocket Pool team reached out to POTUS to get that information. Jasper here says, I for one love what ePBS will do for home staking and thus scaling. Increase the time for submission is equal to easier to keep up. So the idea is that enshrined PBS will make it a little bit easier to get block building happening and make it easier for our node operators to get online, which is of course always good. TU here put a post about how a different implementation potentially for RPIP 45, which is RPL burn. And they're saying that a share of the revenue from the borrowed ETH would be routed to a dedicated buyback contract. When deployed, Rocket Pool DAO would retain ownership and control over all privileged functions, allowing it to adjust buyback parameters as needed. Think of it as a custom version of Ekubo's own buyback model. And then there's a link to some documents there as well. So what they're saying is this buyback will run fully on chain and ties the protocol revenue directly to RPL, positively impacting both price and liquidity. So it seems like there's some elements here of buy and liquidity provide. There's some elements here of buy and burn. I'm not sure what the wider discussion about this is, but they want Jasper to reach out and share ideas. But maybe this is something that could come up because we as a community, of course, still don't have a path forward on the value capture mechanism for the RPL token in the Saturn 2 world. So yeah, it looks like this might be something that could get considered. Like I said, I'm a little bit behind on stuff, so I'm not really sure what the discussion that came up after this tweet was. This was from 3 days ago, so I'll try to chase that up and see what community members think about it. Okay, let's move on to some Ethereum news now. And some of the cool Ethereum news from since my last episode was this Ethereum Foundation donating $500,000 to the legal defense of Roman Storm. And this is amazing. So what's really great about this is that Roman Storm needs about $2 million worth of money to maintain his legal defense with his upcoming court case. And what the Ethereum Foundation is doing is donating $500,000 straight up, which of course is amazing, but then also will match a further $750,000 in donations from the community. So if the community then donates $750,000, then the Ethereum Foundation will match that $750, which will make $1.5 million, which with the $500,000 they've already added will take it up to $2 million, which will cover the whole of the legal defense. Now, Roman, of course, was hugely showed a lot of gratitude for this, saying a huge heartfelt thank you to the amazing Ethereum Foundation for the donation and for matching. It says the support means the world to me, especially standing up for privacy, the right to code. Grateful for everyone chipping in. Your generosity is truly inspiring. Thanks from the bottom of my heart, which of course is a really nice message. However, Josh Stark here shared that he's still short on his goal. Let's actually go and have a look at what the goal stands at right now. I know that he's still a little bit short, so if you haven't donated to Roman Storms yet, definitely go and do that. It looks like they're at 556 ETH, so it looks like they're still a little bit short. But yeah, that's some money that's coming in. Let me see if actually there's a better link. The one that Josh Stark used here. Yeah, so this was Roman Storm saying he's still severely underfunded. And let me see. No, I'm sorry, I can't pick up that information right now, so I can't find a link to it. But yeah, oh wait, actually, probably in his bio. Sorry about this, just doing it all live. Donate and Juicebox. Let's see what's coming up. Oh yeah, that's the link that we already saw. I thought there was a... Oh yeah, here. Yeah, so he's only collected $700,000 out of the $2 million goal. So that is still way, way low. So if you want to donate some money, and then you know that they'll be matched by the Ethereum Foundation. This is actually quite shameful, where the Ethereum Foundation has donated $500,000, and then the community has donated about $100,000, with the Ethereum Foundation matching another $100,000. So we all need to step up. Every dollar counts. We've still got 21 days until the trial starts. So I know that I think there's going to be members of the community who are going to start rallying around this really quickly and make sure that Roman reaches that $2 million goal, because obviously we want him to have the best legal representation possible. Okay, the Ethereum Strategic Reserve has been making some really cool moves recently, and there are a couple of things here. So Fabrice shares information saying that the SBET basically are right up to the number 2 spot now, and the Strategic Ethereum Reserve overall has crossed 1 million ETH, which was at the time of this tweet about $3 billion. Now with the ETH price coming down a little bit, the price is lower, but there's been I was just going to say there's been an update to the website. Yeah, so there's been an update to the website. It looks really nice now, like an actual dashboard, and it shows that there's over nearly 1.2 million ETH in the Strategic Ethereum Reserve now, and this is by people covering people like Ethereum Foundation, SBET, Pulse Chain, Coinbase, Golem Foundation, Gnosis, the US government who will probably sell it, Lido, and a whole bunch of others. So this is really, really, really cool to see that so many treasuries are saying that they want to hold their ETH, they don't want to let go of their ETH, and that they are holding onto that, and with all that amount of ETH as well that they have. So this is awesome. Just a few days ago, like I said, it was over $3 billion, and now it's $2.75 billion for nearly 1.2 million ETH. So this number I'm hoping to see keep growing. I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, there's some good news / not good news here. So this was a tweet from June 16th that Anthony Sassano shared a screenshot from the the GasPix website, and that was looking really good at the time. He says, big jump in the number of Ethereum validators, now signaling for 60 million gas limit, up to 210,000, which is about 19% of all active validators. So that at the time was looking really good, and yeah, I was really really liking that. However, since then it's kind of stalled. In fact, it's gotten the numbers kind of gone a bit flat and a bit down even. So a couple of days ago, it was at 21.4%, and now it's at 21%. So like, guys, what are you doing? I think what we really need to be seeing is like, execution clients coming out and setting the 60 million as default. But yeah, we're at that 244,000 validators. The 36 is still the default by 516,000 validators. And for some reason, the 240,000 validators still signaling 30 million gas, even though, of course, because the number of validators saying 36 million, that is the size of each block that goes through. But yeah, what's disappointing here is just how that stalled. So what we really need now is for there to be a nice little community push and to get more people signaling 60 million gas. I really hope that they do that soon. Okay, talking about scaling Ethereum, there's been some really active discussion going on about how we should scale Ethereum and what should happen. So here, we've got this researcher from the Ethereum Foundation talking about the recent conference they had in Berlin, saying in Berlin, a new Ethereum scaling loop has been discussed, a systematic, repeatable approach to raising L1 gas limit safely and predictably. This thread breaks down the strategy, timelines, bottlenecks, and tooling that make it possible. So why now? Says, throughput on L1 has been flat for 5 years, but with demand rising, Ethereum needs to make way to routinely scale without risking instability, and says the proposed scaling loops follows 3 steps: detect bottlenecks early using performance tooling, classify them client-side, containment or protocol redesign, and apply the right fix before the limits are hit. So this enables smoother and safer upgrades. And there were like things that they found were like pure engineering, containment tweaks, like minor fork changes like gas repricing, and protocol redesigns, major changes like slot restructuring or ePBS, and each has a role at different times. So they're looking like there'll be changes like in Glamsterdam, and then in 2025 to 2027, and then 27 plus, that's the ZK EVM stuff, which will be big. And what about parallelism? That is something that's missing. And Ethereum execution is still largely serial. Real scaling demands a deterministic parallel execution. So they'll be having things like block access lists, long access lists, and optimistic concurrency, and things that will be worked on there as well. So yeah, this is a really nice thread that is explaining the different things. So that's definitely a really good one. So check that out if you want. But the stuff with Glamsterdam caused a bit of drama, where there are 2 competing groups almost kind of coming through. One saying that the time for the block should be reduced from 12 seconds to 6 seconds, and the second saying that ePBS should be prioritized, because some of the information about the block time doesn't make sense. Yeah, there were like some discussions about the order in which to do things with the block time reduction, and this definitely like stirred up some big debate. Here, Barnaby saying shortening the Ethereum L1 slot time from 12 seconds to 12 seconds to 6 seconds has benefits across the stack: better user experience, more value for users, a better confirmation engine for interoperability protocols, and more. And he wants to make it the headliner consideration in Glamsterdam. And there's a proposal in 7782, and Nixo replied by saying, banger of a headliner, easier for people to get it. The claim is that it reduces peak bandwidth, which should be fantastic for home stakers. Is that claim by intuition only? If no, can we see the data? Not sure we should trust an intuition only safety assumption. And then there's a first principles argument there. And then Fabrice says, wishful thinking, but we're keeping gas limit per block the same. It says, hopefully we can increase both limits and shorten slots. There are exciting and pragmatic paths to scaling that would allow us to push the frontier. In a sense, there are independent efforts, but of course, resource reallocation on one or the other is the binding constraint. So there's some really, really interesting commentary here that you can check out. ETH Dreamer, actually, who works at the Ethereum Foundation as well, came up and talked about block structure, came into the Rocket Pool Discord and talked about the block structure and how it's inefficient. And he says they're only operating with 1/3 of the available time for blob transmission and block transmission execution. So he says we can shorten the slots now, but then we're probably stuck with this structure. So he says ePBS is much more efficient with the time in the slot. With ePBS, you can get at least a factor of 2 in blobs and gas out of the same block for the same slot time. It also allows slots to be shorter than not doing this. So he says, I think there's a really good chance if we don't restructure the slot now, then we never will. So we probably would forever be leaving that factor of 2 in performance unenshrined. He says until we switch to a new architecture like lean chain. And now the best argument against doing 773 true, from what I can tell, is that we will eventually switch to lean chain, and so let's not invest in this effort making the beacon chain perfect. That's a decent argument, but it depends on how long you think the lean chain will actually take. I think lean chain is still very up in the air right now. We're working on it, but like I could see it potentially not coming to fruition. He says, my hope that it does, however, is just the nature of research that things sometimes get cancelled. When you're looking at 4+ years on the roadmap, anything can happen. So yeah, there's some discussion here, like I said, about how to prioritize the updates and what taking one path first versus another will open up different paths or close off paths going forwards. So this is, like I said, an active debate. This comment from Ethereum was literally from yesterday. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff here. So yeah, let's definitely keep an eye on it. Okay, there was this interesting post that came out from Bert C. Miller talking about, who works with Flashbots, by the way, talking about MEV and how it limits scaling of a blockchain. And basically the idea is that there's so much scam and spam transactions that happen on blockchain, and like so much stuff is happening with MEV bots that they take up a lot of block space, but they only pay a small amount of fees because of the way that they're designed, that they actually limit scaling of a blockchain. Now, like I said, this post is from like June 16th, so it's a little bit old now, but you can go and check it out. It's got some really interesting data in there about how you can deal with this, how we can address this. Yeah, that's a bit old news now. Okay, a couple of days ago, Nixo had the latest Checkpoint series, which is the Interop edition of the, it says the Checkpoint posts are accessible updates to Ethereum core development. So if you want to learn about what's happening in all the core development stuff, this is the place that you want to be looking. It says this past week, core devs and researchers got together for in-person hacking week during Berlin Block Week. And this is an inside look to what they did. So you can click on the post. It's a blog on the Ethereum, ethereum.org website. And there's a lot of details here about short-term implementation stuff, gas limit testing, long-term research directions, slot restructuring, history expiry, consensus layer hardening, and then layer 2 day, ZK day, and there was summary as well. So yeah, these were, Nixo says this was extremely, enormously productive, and they remove async communication barriers and create, so yeah, this is good. Everyone's working towards Fusaka. It looks like things are going to be good. Go and read that blog post. The link is below. Okay, Ansgar here actually had a really interesting point about Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and it actually brought up some interesting ideas that I had about how people in the Ethereum ecosystem are talking about ETH and Ethereum and how we're getting our messaging across. So Ansgar here basically says that there's two futures to Bitcoin and Ethereum. One is that is fee revenue enough to pay for security. So if it is enough, then Ethereum will be deflationary, Bitcoin will be secure and stay at $21 million. But if it's not enough, if the fee revenue is not enough, then ETH will become slightly inflationary and Bitcoin will break because the 21 million limit will make it so it's not secure anymore. And this was actually really interesting because this kind of messaging was also at the same time coming up from Leo. And Leo was talking about how Bitcoin has a supply cap, but ETH has an issuance cap and burn, and it's a different approach. And, even if every single ETH was staked, the max inflation you would have with Ethereum would be 1.51%. And that's the max issuance if every ETH was staked. But then the burns offset that somewhat. So what's really interesting here, I think, is that this messaging is kind of, there's messaging going on in ETH circles right now. and I'm sure there's some group chat or Telegram channel or something where people are kind of sharing ideas of, what the next messaging should be. And there's some like really, really big people in the Ethereum ecosystem who are then kind of jumping on board with those messages and like really amplifying those messages, putting those messages out. I think the kind of people who were thanked in the Etherealize report, I wouldn't be surprised if all of those people are in the group chat together and every day they're just kind of like working on, what should be the message of the day. And this was, from June 17th. So this was from a few days ago. But yeah, this was from June 17th. So it looks like, Hani Abu, of course, was thanked in that report. Leo was thanked in that report. So it looks like these guys are kind of like talking behind the scenes and like really getting like a unified message for Ethereum out there. And of course, there's people like Anthony Sassano and Vivek Raman and others involved in this as well, because I see like common strings and common elements of them kind of bull posting the same stuff. I think this is absolutely awesome. Like, we really do need more ETH people, like prominent ETH people, getting on the same page, getting on the same messaging. They have diverse audiences, they reach different people. And by sending out that same coherent message, I think it just like amplifies it in a much better way. You find the resonant frequency of tweeting. And once you find that, then you can get, your message gets most impactful. So I really, really like this. It's not necessarily, talking about the actual content of the tweets, but what I'm trying to cover here is that it looks like there's coordinated messaging going on behind the scenes, and I'm definitely very supportive of that. Okay, next we've got this really cool update from L2Beat, and I know that they've been working on this for a while, but now it's actually out there in the world, and this is absolutely awesome. So we've had a problem where L2Beat just listed all the rollups, and there were some of them were like just not good, and people just like, what is this? Like, there's just too much information here. It's overwhelming. So L2Beat, I think, really listened to that criticism, and they have now removed a whole lot of L2s from the front page of the site to a second section. And here it says L2Beat said that today's the day. In 17 hours, L2Beat's recategorization, our biggest framework update yet, first revealed that DevCon goes live. Says to stay listed as an L2, projects must meet higher standards, including working on open proof systems or probably setting up DA bridges. So here there's recategorization happening, and if you look at the blog post, they give you all the information about it. But you could just go to the front page of their site and see the stuff that's come up there. So let's go and have a look. I'm sorry, I didn't have it open already. So all the L2s, before there was over 100 listed, and now it's gone down to 24. And some of these I think will be moved as well. So what's happened is, you've got rollups, 24 rollups, Validiums, there's 3 of them. And then you have this other section where there's a whole lot of stuff here that just doesn't meet, any criteria of being an L2 on Ethereum. And some strong shortcomings here. And then there's under initial review, there's 23 of them here as well. So I think this information now is just a lot more concise. People understand what they're looking at when they actually go and look at the front page now. And I think this is really cool that they've made this update. And hopefully, we'll be seeing some stage 2 rollups. I'm counting on Arbitrum 1, hopefully by the end of this year. That would be absolutely awesome. ZK Sync Era still not being at stage 1 is a huge miss here, but hopefully that'll be coming soon. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff here as well. There's some really small ones that are at stage 2, like app chains, but we need bigger ones and better ones to come soon. But that's a really great update from L2Beat. Okay, and then here Otam has information about the recategorization, saying there was 136 projects were reevaluated. So 50 rollups that were there before, only 25 of them are left. There were 70 Validiums and Optimiums, and only 2 of them were left, now 3. And the rest were moved to the other section and have 6 months to meet the new requirements. So yeah, this is actually really great because it just means that people know what they're getting into and when they're actually getting into it. So awesome stuff. Okay, next we have this update from Fileverse, and you might remember them. I covered them on Rocket Fuel before when they had DDocs. Yeah, it was kind of like a decentralized Google Docs. Well, they've stepped up their game now. Now they've got D-Sheets, and they basically have decentralized Google Sheets, and it's got some really cool like crypto native integrations built into it, like to make it really easy to use. It's got plugins with Aave and Uniswap, ENS, and a whole lot more. Etherscan, so many more as well. So they're actually doing really cool work. If you are not using DDocs or DSheets yet, you're missing out. You need to do that like ASAP. But because this is really awesome stuff. So that huge congrats to Fileverse. And they're saying, look, Excel has ruled the world until now, especially the backbone of millions of databases and trillions of dollars of global capital movement. And now you can do that on Ethereum, on Ethereum Rails. So this is awesome stuff. Congrats to them. Okay, so Joe Lubin actually found a flaw in the Etherealize report. So Etherealize put out this report a few weeks ago talking about how ETH is going to reach $740,000. We all absolutely loved that. But Joe Lubin came out and said, this is a strong piece of work in many ways, well-articulated thesis, good level of detail in Ethereum. But he says that there's a flaw, and But yeah, really something supposed by thesis. But he says, but this top tier thought piece has one major structural flaw, a pretty deep structural flaw. It is not bullish enough. Now, I love this approach that Ethereans have adopted recently, of just adopting a much more bullish mindset, going into talking about Ether the asset, talking about Ethereum adoption, talking about Ethereum use cases. Like, I feel like we're just not bullish enough, and I really love that Joe Lubin is kind of taking this position. And he says it's not bullish enough on the profound societal paradigm shift Ethereum will drive and embody. This is understandable, as none of us at this point can fathom how fast, creative, and expansive the hybrid human-machine intelligence society will grow. Many of us are convinced that it will grow largely on the decentralized rails, so it's not a great leap to suggest that value resident on and flowing through Ethereum will constitute a large portion of Web3. The re-decentralized will be orders of magnitude larger than today's global GDP. So I really like this comment from Vivek. I said, yes, we all need to be more bullish. ETC said, what's the ticker? And he says the ticker is ETH. And yeah, it was just a really good comment, like really positive comment. I really like that. I think we all need to be embodying a much more bullish energy about Ethereum and crypto. Ethereum, of course. And then what's really cool here, Joe Lubin again, he's been bull posting some really great stuff recently. I feel like, well, let me read this and then I'll comment on it. So he says, Ethereum Layer 1 will be the master ledger for the entire world, permissionless to inspect, use, and add data or functionality to it. It's credibly neutral, censorship resistant, tamper resistant, and tamper evident via slashing and transparency. Incessantly progressively decentralizing itself with best-in-class giant community that is constantly hyper vigilant, as there will always be patient, well-resourced actors working to subvert the system. Fortunately, this will get harder and harder as Ethereum grows and matures. So this is the thing with the branding thing that I was talking about earlier, the marketing thing about how, there's consistent messaging, and here Hanyabu secure, no downtime, permissionless, censorship resistant, guaranteed. Ethereum is the default. So yeah, this is really cool stuff. Joe Lubin is bull posting. Now, one thing that's really funny, that the point that I was going to make a few minutes ago is that, Michael Saylor kind of came onto the scene, right, as this, MicroStrategy kind of play where you borrow against your equity and then you buy the Bitcoin, basically. That's what he was doing. SBET came along, and Joe Lubin and others as well, trying to do it for different chains. And with SBET, we're doing that for Ethereum, and Joe Lubin is kind of like taking the charge on that. One of the things that people said was the person who kind of leads this will have to be like evangelical, they'll have to be charismatic, they'll have to be, have an understanding of the market, so have, ability to raise capital. And people were just like, who will do this for Ethereum? I even saw this on like Chopping Block recently, where Laura Shin was saying like, who will do it for Ethereum? Can Joe Lubin do it? And the thing that people don't realize is that Joe Lubin's been around from day one of Ethereum, well, close to day one. Like, he's a co-founder of Ethereum. He's built Consensus, which was for a long time like a huge building body on top of Ethereum, a huge marketing and like, BD arm of Ethereum in a sense, until the SEC stuff, a few years ago really started coming after Consensus. Joe Lubin was actually out there doing that work, building a huge reputation in the Ethereum ecosystem. And now, with the SEC changing and the rules changing in the US, Joe Lubin's like really like shining in the kind of content that he's putting out on Twitter and the kind of things that he's saying. And he's really manifesting that bullish energy, which I think people kind of like scoffed at Saylor about, talking about how, his Bitcoin to $13 million, prediction, all this kind of stuff is just hot air and like dumb and stupid and idiotic and all that. But I think you need an element of that to really like thrive and like really give some people to like something to hope for and to work towards and to dream about, right? And that is such an important element to have. And sadly, I think, Ethereum's kind of been lacking that, and ETH has been lacking that in the last few years. And the price action, of course, I don't know if that's the price action is because of the lack of bullishness, or the lack of bullishness is, because of the price action. But I'm really happy that, we're kind of turning this around right now, and Ethereans are kind of rallying around the cause to do that. So yeah, great job by Joe Lubin. I really hope that he maintains his bullish energy and really keeps this positive messaging coming out and forward, because it's absolutely awesome to see happening. Okay, let's move on to some other news now. So the Senate last week, so the Senate passed the Genius Act, which is a stablecoin bill, and it passed it, I think, 68-32 or something like those kind of numbers. So it's a very strong bipartisan support of this. This is actually going to come up for vote very soon with the Congress and the House, and it looks like, it should pass there as well. But this is huge, pathway for massive stablecoin growth coming to crypto, and of course that hopefully will be on Ethereum. Now here we had a new filing from JP Morgan, and talking for a trademark what looks like a stablecoin. It looks like this is going to be built on this is the JP Morgan dollar. It's going to be built on Base, on Coinbase's system. Here the Base said that JP Morgan is bringing banking on chain. Connexus by JP Morgan is launching JPMD, a USD deposit token for institutional clients on Base. It'll be the first token of its kind on a public blockchain, enabling fast, secure 24/7 money movement between trusted parties. So this is huge. I think it's kind of like a test that they're doing right now, and something that they want to grow. The fact that it's on Base is really cool as well. And then more here, Jesse from Base has been doing a lot to try to get companies to build on Ethereum and doing payments and stable coins on Ethereum, because the Genius Act, of course, is going to open the floodgates for this kind of stuff. So he says, dream apps that I'd love to work with to accept stable coins because it make my life 10 times better. So he says DoorDash, number one. And after that, ChatGPT, Uber and Lyft, Spotify, Starbucks, Amazon, Whole Foods, Chipotle. And then Andy Fang here, who is the CEO of DoorDash, replied by saying, not able to DM you, you DM me. So that's pretty awesome to see. Really, really good stuff there. Ryan Sean Adams here as well quotes from Donald Trump saying that the Senate passed the Genius Act. Now we need the House to pass it through quickly. And he says we need this to move up this lightning fast and pass a clean Genius Act. That's with no amendments, nothing like that. So it would not have to go back to the Senate if that's what happens. And he says no delays, no add-ons. Let's get this done. This is American brilliance at its best. And we're going to show the world how to win with digital assets like never before. Ryan Sean Adams says, safe to say the president will sign the Stablecoin Act as soon as it gets to his desk. He's telling the House to just pass the Genius Act as it is, no changes. Getting this done by July 4th is the play. So now it's June 23rd, of course. So that gives us less than 2 weeks to get it done, which is very exciting, of course. Okay, it looks like Coinbase are doing a whole lot more as well, not just bringing JP Morgan on Chase, but they're also actually trying to reach out to the SEC to try to get blockchain-based stocks on Base as well, I presume, or at least on their Coinbase exchange. But it looks like they're really trying to push things forward and grow things there quite a lot. Okay, and then here, the JP Morgan met with the crypto task force. Guess what one of the topics was? Reviewing the potential impact of existing capital market activity migrating to the public blockchain. It says read that again. So of course with the JP Morgan dollar, they're kind of bringing some of these features on chain, and it looks like they want to bring even more of them on chain as time goes by. And of course, with Lindy and with liquidity impacts and effects, what happens is the more things that come on chain, the more beneficial it is for other things to come on chain. And that's what we'll be seeing, I think, in the next 2 years, maybe 3 years. I think the crypto community knows that we're never going to, we've never had a president as favorable to crypto as we have right now. And it looks like it's got bipartisan support in the US. So strike while the iron is hot, make those inroads, get yourself too big to fail, and then, crypto can kind of take over the world, which is what we're here for. But we really need like the decentralized, permissionless, trustless, that version of crypto. I'm kind of scared of like corporate crypto kind of taking over the world. I feel like it would just be like even more added surveillance, that crypto could allow, which is kind of terrifying. Okay, and then there was, it looks like the US might be heading towards a period of stagflation. So inflation estimates, they're lowering the inflation estimates, GDP estimates to 1.4% and lifting inflation estimates to 3%. So it looks like, lower growth and high inflation. That's a period of stagnation in the economy and inflation. So stagflation, that's not looking good. That's the outcome here from the Fed. And yeah, it might be that, that will eventually lead to recessionary pressures. Finally, we were talking about Donald Trump and crypto earlier. Here, there's Molly White, who's a renowned crypto skeptic and critic, and she put together a diagram of the crypto family's entanglements based on his most recent financial disclosures. So you can have a look over here that they basically got their fingers in all sorts of different things, whether that's through, Trump himself, his sons, Melania, or certain family members as well. And there's money going back and forth across different places. So it's going from the Trump family to the SEC. It's going from Trump family to the Witkoff family here. It's going to all these different groups that are kind of acting as nexuses. And it's kind of scary to think about all of this. But yeah, that's, I think, sadly, the inverse of, the positivity that we're getting with the SEC and favorable conditions for crypto to thrive, is that there's also favorable conditions potentially for grifting to happen, and that of course is not something we want to see. So yeah, that's a little bit sad. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to end today's episode of Rocket Fuel. I know that it's been a month since you guys have seen my face, over a month, so it's really nice to be back. Hopefully everything went well today and this episode was recorded well and you guys can all watch it and enjoy it. But I will be back tomorrow with hopefully more up-to-date and relevant episode. But thank you all for letting me have this time off, and I'm glad to be home. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be making these episodes of Rocket Fuel for you all as well. So thanks. Bye.